So I'm delighted to say joining us now from West Ham Fan TV is the great Dan Lawless. Dan, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Just stressing every day ahead of this game on Sunday. That's all I can think about. So I just can't wait to get it over with, to be honest.
Get it over. Football should be bringing joy, but I understand where you are right now. And look, I also understand why West Ham fans are protesting. I totally understand why there are issues with the club. So for a layman who maybe doesn't know the history, why protest and why call off the protests this weekend?
So, okay, we'll start with why protest. I'll try and summarize it as quickly as I can because there's so many reasons, but it comes down to the ownership who are responsible for the mess that we're in. We're looking at potential relegation after giving up our historic home, a place that we loved, Upton Park, to move to a stadium that we don't love, an athletic stadium that's not purpose-built for football, that we rent in order to apparently compete with the Arsenals and the Chelseas and to play Champions League football. Something that a team like Bournemouth are potentially on the cusp of in a 11,000-seater stadium. We told we had to move to this stadium, this London stadium, to compete. And now we're facing relegation. Just poor decision after poor decision, hiring the wrong managers, penny pinching, scattergun approaches in transfer windows has led us to the mess we're in. We will not go anywhere until that ownership is changed. Why stop the protest on Sunday? Because we're put in a situation, unfortunately, where we have to focus on getting behind the team to get us out of that mess, because relegation could be absolutely disastrous for this club financially. And we have to just do our part and put our problems aside for now. But it's not over for sure. The process will continue.
Sounds like a lot of conflicting emotions that you're dealing with right now. And is everyone on board with canceling this protest? Is everyone unified in the idea of getting behind this team? Or is it still a lot to ask for some West Ham fans considering everything they've gone through?
I think it's always going to be a hard ask. I think there is a lot of anger and there's a lot of appetite for venting against this ownership. This is the last game of the season. This is going to be the last time until next season, our first game, where we can have that spotlight on us and make our voices heard and get that attention. Because after that, the stadium's shut to West Ham fans for the summer. So it's difficult, but I think most fans will understand the priority is supporting the team. In this case, I think there's been instances where protests have happened earlier and people have said, oh, don't protest because you'll affect the team. And actually, I think those games that we did protest, we ended up winning, so maybe we should protest. But I think, maybe that's it. But I think for the great...
Feels like a classic East London, us against them, get your backs up, prove yourself. Like maybe that's what you guys actually need, is a bit of...
Yeah, a little bit of a cauldron, a little bit of
let it get a bit
edge
tasty
to it. But at least now, like whatever happens Sunday, because I know what will happen. Like we protest and we lose and we go down. Oh, it's because of the fans. Like we have to remove any of that narrative that we can be blamed, because blame will be tried to be shifted to the fans. I've already seen it as things like, oh, it's the fans' fault because they wanted Moyes out. That's why. It's. I mean,
that is a fair question, though.
What, the Moyes thing? Yeah, the Moyes thing comes up all the time. Not the fact that, they changed Moyes' job role, which he was unhappy and why he didn't want to sign a new contract, because he was a manager and they wanted to make him a head coach and have him answer to Tim Steidten, who he didn't get on with. They would have been more than happy to keep Moyes and he would have been happy to stay had they not changed his role. That doesn't take
away from the fact that the fans did want him out, though.
But that's football. That's football. And I'm sorry, like if you play defensive football that's not very entertaining while losing
for some people it wins them Premier Leagues,
no, but this is the thing, you're watching defensive football while losing 5-0 6-0 near enough every week. Let's not forget that season we conceded record amount of goals. Any club, I don't care what team you support, no fan is going to want to sit through that. You're going to lose fans if you're doing that.
I am empathetic to it. I am. You want to watch good football, but I can also see the argument when people say, a European trophy, 3 top 10 finishes. Like, those are real things that happened. And yes, that season was poor, but Villa's season started poor this year. They were down in a relegation battle 8 games into the season. They're going to finish in the top 4. And I'm not saying that's where West Ham would have ended up, but I just thought maybe he'd bought himself a bit more patience.
No, well, this is, and listen, Villa, 8 games in, no one's in a relegation battle. But
okay, fair.
You know, and Emery, like I said, he's got a lot of credit in the back. And Moyes had credit in the back, because don't forget, in that Conference League season, in the league, we had a horrific season. We had an absolutely horrific season in the league. Was in a relegation battle that season. A lot of us, even myself, was critical. I said, you know what? We've won the trophy. You know, he's earned another season. And we started the next season well, to be fair. Mm-hmm. But again, to sit through it and you know, go into games. I gave up my season ticket last season, so I was there every week. It was miserable. It was miserable seeing us not only play the worst football of my life, worse than Moyes had played previously, but lose by 5 goals, 6 goals, 4 goals on a regular basis. And you think, this can't be sustainable. So we had a really old squad as well. You know, partly that Moyes, but I'm not putting it all on Moyes, because it all comes back to Sullivan. But I think it's very simplistic look to just go, well, if they kept Moyes, and they should have kept Moyes, because if you say that we should have kept Moyes, then you're excusing blame from Sullivan, because it is how bad this club's been run. And it's not because we should have kept, it's the appointments after that was so poor. Lopetegui, there weren't fans going, Lopetegui, get us Lopetegui, Graham Potter, Nuno. It's the appointments. Why do I have to look at Palace having Glasner, Bournemouth having managers like Iraola? They're playing brilliant football, Bournemouth, and on the cusp of Champions League football. Why do we have to sit there and be happy just to be in the league, getting slapped every week and playing awful football? Why? It don't make sense.
And look, this is
sorry,
why...
I'm emotional.
No, Dan, it's why the reason I asked the question is because you hear it come up time and time again, and you've given a very passionate and a good response to it, because I agree with you. The problem hasn't been necessarily getting rid of Moyes. It's been the appointment since. It's been the treatment of the ownership. But I'm going to push back on one other thing as a football fan. I understand your heart and your soul was in Upton Park. I understand that you guys completely bought into that, and you hate the idea that you had to move because it made you competitive, and you look at the Bournemouths and you get frustrated that they've had success without having to do that. But do you understand why other football fans are frustrated that you are earning far more revenue than ever earned before in a stadium you're only paying £4 million a year for, that you don't have to pay the stewardship fees or anything else for, and yet all we hear is complaining about it? Like, I can understand why other football fans are frustrated by that.
Yeah, but you're frustrated at something that doesn't benefit West Ham fans. The fact that we save all this money on revenue and they're making all this money is clearly not trickling down to the fan experience, because that doesn't mean anything. I don't care how much money we earn if it doesn't result in a successful team, if it doesn't result in us going and actually being ambitious and going and getting managers that aren't just out of contract, but paying out for the best managers and trying to get a good structure behind us. Like, none of that matters. Bournemouth and Brighton and Palace have shown, if you're just a well-run club, you don't need all of that. You don't need the revenues and, a cheap stadium that you benefit off. You just need to be a well-run football club. So they can be frustrated, but be frustrated with Sullivan and the people that made the deal. But it don't benefit us, so we have every right to moan about it.
Trust me, as a guy who lives in London, I'm frustrated with the people that made the deal more than anyone else. It's never West Ham I'm taking the ire out on, but again, it's one of those arguments you hear, and I see it regularly. What's for you then? How concerned are you about the spectre of relegation, what it means for the football club? But equally, staying up, if it just means the norm staying, Sullivan staying, nothing actually changing and being back in this position in 12 months' time.
Yeah, it's a real...
I know I've given you a horrible catch-22 there, but it does feel like if you're not relegated, I can't see Sullivan going anywhere unless it's that he's forced out by whatever the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff is going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee he leaves if we get relegated. There's a hope. There is a hope that he'll look at it and go, let me just cut my losses now. On the other hand, if we stay up, maybe he looks, well, this is the time for me to maximize my value for what I can get for the club, because the club won't be worth as much if we get relegated. So if he's going to sell the best chance for him selling is us as a Premier League club. And if he stays, there's a chance we won't be the following season. He's kicking the can down the road. So that would be the opportunity. So whereas if we go down, he might think, let me get the club back up and then try. So, and I think if we go down, there's a real possibility that we don't come back up because we're talking mass player sales. We're going to have to sell a lot of players if we stay up anyway, because of the situation we're in, but a lot more if we go down. Then we're trusting Sullivan to handle that recruitment and ensure we get the right players in to get us up, the right manager, because Nuno will probably go if we go down. And I don't have any faith at all. So if we stay down, then the revenues go down again. You know, the parachute payments reduce. So then we become just another championship club. And, you know, we really things start to look bleak. So relegation is not something that I want at all. Some fans think it will clear things out and it will be a renewal. I would rather stay in the Premier League, you know, and then try to hope and we can get him out.
I want to throw another hypothetical at you, Dan. Would you trade your Conference League title to still be at Upton Park?
100%.
Wow.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I would trade it for anything because, yeah, like that was an amazing moment winning that trophy. Unforgettable. And the parade the next day, it was amazing. But those memories don't outweigh the memories I had at Upton Park, the experience, the match day, you know, of support in your club, going to the same pubs, you know, going and seeing the same faces, having that experience of actually being close to the pitch, having been in a stadium that feels West Ham with a good atmosphere. You know, that match day experience is something that I would trade anything for, you know, because look, as a West Ham fan, look, and you're an Arsenal fan, so you've just seen you win the league and you've seen FA Cups over here. We're not in it for the glory. We don't see glory often. We support West Ham for the culture of West Ham, and Upton Park was the center of that culture. And now we've lost it. We've lost a big part of our identity. A lot of fans come to our stadium, the away fans, and say, you sold your soul for this S-hole. And they're right. It is like we've sold our soul. We've sold a piece of ourselves. So I'd give anything
to that. Listen, Dan, the one kind of query I do have just to finish on very shortly. At least with all of this going on, it must be nice to know that 90% of the football public is desperate for you to win on Sunday and send Tottenham down to the Championship.
Yeah, listen, that support is appreciated. I wish the players would appreciate it. I don't have much faith in the team because that support was there against Newcastle. In fact, a lot of Newcastle fans wanted us to win. And we still turned up like it was pre-season. Like we was on the beach, and they were the team that were fighting for survival. So these players who, you know, need to step up and show that they've got something about them. They've got, you know, a bit of professionalism, a little bit of pride and integrity to go out and play like it is the most important game ever. Because this is big. This is bigger than the Conference League win. This is a huge game. Unfortunately, because of what happened against Newcastle, it's out of our hands if we win, but just win our game. If we just win our game, then whatever happens in the Spurs game happens. But I don't want to have it in a situation where they lose, but we draw, or we lose, and we've just taken ourselves out the game. So yeah, I'm worried, but hopefully we can step up. And Nuno does the right thing. I'm still so angry with Nuno for the Newcastle game. So hopefully he learned from that.
It's all good, baby. You got our support. Come on. Come on.
Appreciate you, Dan. Brilliant stuff. Dan Lawless joining us. Excellent stuff. Thanks, from him. Guys.